Hey everybody, I'm John Radoff. We are back again with the game development live stream. We're also going to be talking about artificial intelligence today, so a little bit of everything. I've got a couple of really interesting guests. We got Bee and Vulcan from Layer AI. I'm going to let them introduce themselves in a moment, but we're going to cover a lot of ground here. We're going to talk about the whole innovation happening around agentic AI, agentic engineering, how it changes the way you develop code within a startup or a game company or any kind of company. We're going to talk about Layer's specific technologies around generative art and how that can help you, how it applies to things like live services and live ops in a game. So we've got a ton. We're here at GDC. So we're only going to do a 30-minute talk today. Usually we do these for an hour, but we're going to have to keep it really tight and focused. Why? Because we are sitting here at the St. Regis in San Francisco in the middle of the Game Developers Conference in 2026. So we've got a million meetings to go to. Layer's got a lot of business to do. We are just cramming this right in between everything else. So without further ado, I'd love to hear, before we even get into Layer AI, tell us a little bit about your backgrounds, how you met each other, how you got into this before Layer AI, and then we'll come back to that.
All right.
Yeah,
How are you going? Hi, I'm
Vulcan.
My background is technical. I'm a software engineer, studied at MIT, studied AI, and I've been in the AI space for many years. At this point, like almost 20. And I've seen it all, kind of through all the different evolutions of AI technology. And I'll let Bee introduce yourself before we talk about how we.
Hello, everybody. This is Bonjour. I'm living in San Francisco. I worked in mobile games pretty much all my career. I worked in ads, mobile game services, most recently at Unity, and co-founded Layer at the very beginning of the new generative AI era. And really excited to be here with John. He's a leader I've been following, and this was long due. So thanks, John, for having us.
Yeah, exciting to have you both. Well, let's talk about Layer, right? What's the problem that you set out to work on when you founded the company? And also, how has it evolved over time? What have you learned along the way? Love to capture any aspect of the entrepreneurial journey that you can share with us too.
So we started Layer because we really saw the potential of generative technology early on, but then we realized, because of our background in gaming and because we knew a lot of game studio founders and the journey and the challenges that they face, especially on content generation, that we wanted to solve that problem. And the core problem that we realized needed to be solved for generative AI to be fully used for all aspects of game development was consistency. You could go to Midjourney, generate some assets, but they weren't really usable in a production setting, either in the game or in UA or live ops or anywhere else. So really focused on getting really consistent results out that match a game studio's own style and own visual brand language.
What makes the consistency problem so hard to solve?
Well, it's basically a really deep technical challenge with AI. These generative models, I don't think even the makers of them can quite explain exactly how they work. So it really takes a lot of experimentation and research to get kind of that secret sauce to get super good consistency out of these models.
Can we talk about some of the customers? Like who are the people that are using Layer today?
Absolutely. So we started Layer to be, actually, why don't you go ahead?
No worries, you're doing great. So yeah, we actually started with mobile game studios because we saw that they needed a lot of content and constantly. And that's exactly why we first started with working customers like Triple Dot, Zynga, SciPlay, Huge Games. These are really large casual game makers, and they demanded a lot of content, and we started with a compliant and private and secure offering, of course, and to serve these studios.
Now, one of the things we just touched on a little while ago was live ops and live services. It seems like you've identified particular use cases within mobile. Like I just off the top of my head and knowing my own background in mobile game development and some of our customers, you have a lot of recurring things that come up. So first of all, top of the funnel, you've got user acquisition, figuring out how to create new media and new like videos promoting your game, all of the content, essentially the advertising content. That seems like a natural for generative AI. But then as you get all the way into the game itself, things like events, acculturating content for different kinds of audiences, having everything from the Halloween event to the whatever event, like all of that stuff seems like another case, and just constantly keeping it fresh. So those are a couple of things that come to mind for me. Are those two areas that Layer is playing in today? And
Absolutely.
yeah.
So once you created the game and launched it, of course, you need to retain those players and constantly feed them new content, engage them, and increase their lifetime in your game. And definitely that's the other area that we're really strong at and have been investing in, allowing studios to build repeatable content pipelines so that they can scale their production and they can reach even wider audiences that they wouldn't have time otherwise to cater to.
Do you see this as something where the really big publishers like a Zynga just get to do more and more of the same and optimize? Or does it also democratize it for smaller developers to enter and level the playing field? I'm just curious how you see that.
That's a great question. Yeah, we do serve these very large customers and enterprises, but we have hundreds of studios using Layer, and some of them are just like solo founders. Some of them are like just a few people, and they're all over the globe. So absolutely, it is as long as well as supporting kind of really these efficiency and productivity gains for large enterprises, and enabling kind of more accessible content for smaller studios. There's also new use cases that are coming up that are only possible with Gen AI. For example, especially some of these small studios, they would never be able to produce the amount of video content that they do today without generative AI. And that's just the tip of the iceberg. There's actually really interesting combinations of things like storytelling and microdramas and different types of UA and different types of live ops content that weren't even possible before, that we're seeing people are now able to produce.
Drill into that a little bit deeper, because I think that's where things get really interesting. Because a lot of the time when people talk about a range of artificial intelligence technologies, I think they have a tendency to focus on, okay, it's going to boost my productivity by these many hundreds of %. I can certainly tell you that it does that. Like, I use agentic technology all day long. Basically, I probably have like 10 different projects I'm working on, and I'm shaping it through Claude Code. So like, that's just my own personal experience of like 10xing my own personal productivity. But this isn't just a productivity enhancing technology. It's actually unlocking new ways of interacting, new forms of engagement.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit more about that? Because I really want to get people's creative juices flowing about thinking about this isn't just like a mass jobs replacement program.
No.
It's also something that's transformative in terms of what we can do.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and I'd love to hit on all of those. So in terms of content and the experiences, gamer experiences that are allowed, like we recently built an experimental game ourselves, just not to be a game studio or actually get it to like scale or anything, but just to kind of ask ourselves what is possible with the latest kind of technology today. And here's like a very interesting tidbit I want to share from that. What we're thinking is that we can have a game economy that produces like this Genesis coin as part of the game economy, however you want to produce that. And it's a very rare coin, one in like 100,000, one in 10,000. And whoever gets that Genesis coin is able to generate content inside the game. So it's a combination of content creation and the economy, as well as kind of like that feeling of ownership when there's a little bit of UGC content in the game. It's like a gachapon game. It's like an instantly leveled up a card, for example. I think the critical thing there is the core concept. Like, even though the game itself might be like maybe one of the simpler versions of what you can possibly build in the future, I think right now we're seeing kind of experiments coming out about how Gen AI game mechanics could work. I think that's the critical thing. It's not just about build the same games faster. It's like, what are new possible experiences? And that's just on the game side. On the UA side, you can imagine really much more personalized and culturalized experiences. Like a game studio would not be able to build, say, local UA campaigns in hundreds of geos before Gen AI.
Yes.
Now they can. I guess they could if they were like a massive.
If you're huge company, and you had a 50-person department that just, and that's the way a lot of mobile studios have been structured. I'm sure, B, you're very familiar with like the before and after. Let's talk about the before and after. Like, what did it look like before to create like a user acquisition digital media team to promote a reasonably popular game? and how has that changed now, and how does that open up the market? Because I'm thinking now I could make a mobile game by myself and then just have a Gen AI. My chief marketing officer will be an agent that I hire online to just start churning out content.
Yeah, definitely. I think historically mobile game studios have been like building really large teams, from market research, market analysts to creative producers to art directors and product managers. They're all collaboratively working on these like really large scale campaigns. Sometimes they involve IPs, sometimes they involve like really significant production budgets. But there's some also game studios, they invest significant time in preparation and sourcing of these new campaign briefs. And I think in the agentic world, which I'm really, really excited about, we're entering this era where you don't need to go to data. Trends and data and all that insights can be sent to you daily, allowing you to immediately see what's working around the world and what's trending. And for the first time ever, you can actually, if you have a creative system built, you can immediately take these trends and convert them into campaigns that that works. And you can do this at scale across all languages, all countries, in a way that is addressing all cultures. So I think that's what most excites me, and this will allow game studios to gain a huge competitive edge, first time ever.
There's a whole bunch of things to unpack there.
Yeah.
So I do want to drill down into it more, because I think these are some of the most important things for game developers at all scale to understand how they can incorporate some of these technologies into the way they're doing business, as well as even just reconceptualizing what it means to be a game studio and how much more of the traditional publishing type tasks you could even consider taking on with some of this. So first of all, I'm hearing kind of like a multi-agent coordination system that you just described. You've got an agent out there that is essentially looking for data, looking for new trends that you would be able to take advantage of.
Exactly.
But then with that data that you've collected, hand off the data to a different agent, which is the creative marketing agent that goes and identifies target audiences, particular creatives that get delivered to them, and then continuously measures like what is the efficacy. Because the neat thing about this, I'll take a step back here and would love to hear either of your response to it, but it feels like the biggest breakthrough back in 2025-ish timeframe was this emphasis away from like the reinforcement learning with human feedback towards the things like DPO and the ability to look at actual verifiable results. That's why coding got so strong, because you can verify that the program got the output that you wanted, and you don't need a human in the loop to verify that and retrain the model until it's really, really powerful. Absolutely. Seems like advertising units have very clear objective functions, right? Like I need a ROAS, or I need a timeline that's important to me. Like you pick which one, but there's only like 2 or 3 real objective functions that ad efficacy would be measured on for a game. And if you can train your cycle around that objective function, you've got something verifiable you can work with.
Yeah, I think you nailed a lot of pieces, but I think, let's dig in, because this is like one of the most interesting parts of the whole thing for us right now. So first of all, let's talk about the effectiveness of like agents in terms of creative content. Right now, and probably for the foreseeable future, just a pure agent isn't going to be the best at really following an art style. It's not going to give you consistent results. You're going to get one result and something completely different and not quite what your art team and your art brand language is looking for. So that's where a tool like Layer comes in, is to kind of become that system of record for creative language or creative engine, basically. That's kind of one pillar, one foundation of an agentic workflow.
And just to pause on that for a moment, just so folks understand, the issue is like, I think what you described as a pure agent is just like, tell an LLM what you want it to do, pretend to be this role, right? I think in some ways you're touching on the limitations of memory that we've got within agents.
A context window, memory, as well as just the pure capabilities. Like these are trained on natural language. That's what a lot of the underlying technology and embeddings are trained on, there's a lot of multimodal agents, but they're pretty much all multimodal at this point, but they're not good at generating consistent results. They're good at understanding what they're looking at in a kind of a fuzzy way. But when you look at the level of quality needed for world-class brands or really even up and coming startups we're working with, like their 5-person team, and they're like, we want to become like the next Pixar. Like they have a really high bar. So it doesn't matter how large a team is, it really matters like kind of what bar they set for themselves. Same with, just an analogy from something I know deeply, like software. Even if the agents can code, you still want proper testing, like proper validation before it goes into production. There's recent news out of Amazon where they brought down their production systems. So I think the magic is there, but it's not going to be like complete magic where you replace everything with agents. Still, the harness, the infrastructure, the pillars you set up are the critical piece and the difference between success and failure. So we are aiming to become that creative pillar.
Right.
And this is just one piece of the whole data loop of what makes a UA campaign successful. As you said, a UA campaign has very specific goals and ROAS targets, but unlike software, those numbers change over time. There's a time component to this as well. Like they start fatiguing after a while because the trends change, the things that interest people and get their attention change. And that's another important aspect of this, because every game right now is competing in the attention economy. And not only with other games, but with TikTok, with YouTube. So in this kind of whole world of ever-changing attention and where kind of what people want to see, what content interests them, the big advantage with an agentic workflow is it's on 24/7. It doesn't sleep, it doesn't get tired. It can keep looking at things over and over again and keep looking at your metrics over and over again and say, oh, these have gone down, but then what do I do? That part is currently manual. Like it tells you, oh, these things have come down in terms of numbers. Someone needs to go and generate some stuff. But if your art team is able to produce an engine that is style consistent, that they're happy about, then that piece is automatable as well, and suddenly the loop is complete.
Right. And if we look at what an LLM can really do, it's actually gotten surprisingly good at math, given what we think of as an LLM. But the training of how you get a model to do something like artistic consistency, there's a much deeper level of mathematics behind being able to deliver that, which you're not really going to represent at the LLM conversational level. And that's where these different agents that have different tools essentially at their disposal
and
become
they
powerful.
At a different level. Like the certain agents or certain models are really good at pixels, really good at understanding art styles, especially the ones we fine-tune for our customers, really good at following that art style specifically. And then these agents, like the general agents, are really good at orchestrating things and pulling context from one place, like a creative intelligence tool or maybe your ad tech tool, putting it into a creative pipeline. I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
I mean, also accessibility. Okay, you have a technical background. Obviously, John is very technical, but like, how do you feel about humans interacting with agents? I think one of the core things we're addressing at Layer is to make platform very accessible and unoffensive to the non-technical users. Offer artists the creative controls that they are used to having on platforms like Photoshop, but still make it super easy for them to engage with this really complex machine learning models and still have the superpowers maybe of like an engineer. Like I think we are all becoming a little art directors and managers and engineers of this new world.
Yeah, I mean, I think the person that's ultimately financially responsible for something like ads inside a game publisher, they are measured themselves on how much profit do they generate from the ads that they paid for. And they kind of functionally are more like asset managers at a larger publisher. And they're allocating capital between different kinds of programs and different kinds of channels and different kinds of advertising platforms that they can allocate. So I think anytime you go to that person and you tell them how they can run 10 or 100 times as many experiments so that they have a much higher likelihood of getting to a good result, then that's how that decision gets made more than anything else.
Exactly. And if you look at the market today, like campaigns are generally built around two different goals, like either you two different ways actually. Either you build variants of an existing well-performing popular campaign, or you are on the hunt for net new concepts and finding the net new unique idea. I think talking to a lot of game studios that we work with and their marketing teams, like they've been mainly focused on variant generation because they know that works and they don't want to waste time. But now in this new era, variant creation is kind of like a no-brainer, and it's so fast and easy that they're excited to allocate time to find these new concepts that will make them the leaders in the company that found the concept. So I think, that's also one of the most exciting parts that's different now.
And to maybe touching back on what we initially talked about, like what is only possible with AI that wasn't possible before. Imagine like the storylines in a game, the kind of game experience you want to give to people. Now that can expand to kind of other assets or like on like off-app assets or UA campaigns you do, where you can kind of have a more complete story of maybe the characters in the game show up in front of you as a microdrama. Maybe the settings there kind of show up with like some multiverse of other games that you combine. Like this stuff becomes possible because you don't need like $1 million budget anymore to build like a mini movie. Now this is all possible to experiment and create. So I think the reason I feel I like the artists using tools like this should feel there's a challenge in terms of learning them, but also an excitement in terms of the amount of creative possibilities has also exploded along with the challenges in kind of adopting these tools.
I'd like to take a little pivot to agentic engineering and agents within your startup as well. I'll comment a little bit on like some of my own just pure experimentation that I've been doing. But so I open sourced a content management, like a website management platform called Light CMS. But the reason I did it is because my renewal was coming up for Squarespace, and I was like, I don't really like Squarespace that much anyway. It's kind of always have to go through their UI and stuff. What if I could just control it through Claude Cowork and I'll never like do these fidgety things on a website again? So I made my own content management system. I probably put in a few hours of total think time into it, and it came up with something pretty good. I even, now that I've been using Claude Cowork with it, Claude Cowork essentially is the operator. And I've asked it, I was like, is there a more efficient way you could use the MCP? Because I'll give that back to Claude Code and we'll improve it and we'll like tighten up the whole technical cycle here. But I'm just thinking about like, the likelihood, the feeling I have, which I think a lot of people are starting to feel, which is like, before you would look at a lot of SaaS software these days, you just be like, maybe I can just like solve it for myself and agentically create it. That's one change that I'm experiencing. But also just the ability to pursue a lot of different project ideas and prototypes and things kind of concurrently is another thing that's been transformative to myself, and like 10xing, probably more like 100xing my productivity. So that's my personal story. But are you applying these technologies internally to Layer as well?
Yeah, we're definitely going through a transformation. And I think, there's like, I can probably talk about this for like 2 hours. I'll try to summarize it.
We'll have you back. We're going to do an agentic engineering talk, maybe bring a few
on a personal level, like I have of course, the OpenClaw setup. I'm using AIs to fight AIs because the AIs are sending me a lot of spam in my email, and I'm using my own AIs to fight against it. So I'm trying to kind of, just stuff like that, like send me a daily brief. Help me understand kind of like better context across the company. It gives me like a nice overview. So I absolutely love that. We've also basically set a policy in the company to unlimited tokens for everyone. Like this is a time for experimentation and learning. Not everything we do will make sense, but it's all in the purpose of learning and education and understanding like how this new world works. Because I don't think every theory or every kind of really maximalist thing will pan out. I think some things people say today that I hear, like, yeah, the future is going to be like this. I don't think they will all work, but the whole world is going to change significantly regardless. And it's up to us, say within the engineering team, they need to come up with the best practice and guardrails to make sure they don't bring down production. But that doesn't mean they shouldn't be thinking agent first. Like everyone on our team is thinking agent first now, thinking like, can an agent do this? Should I write a skill for it? And sometimes it makes sense, sometimes it doesn't. I think there's certain like kind of core principles that still carry over from, say, I was at Coinbase before. Like one of the principles there was want to automate. I don't think like we should try to automate everything. Like it doesn't make sense. Like sometimes you just go and click a button in the UI, and if you do it once every month, that's okay. You don't have to put an agent on it. But sometimes like we do certain things repetitively over and over again. And what we really decided to do was to say, whenever we pick a tool, a SaaS tool, we should question, like, does this really make sense? And sometimes, for example, we've decided to set up a cloud workflow that does the same thing that a SaaS says they do. We didn't need that. But we do need certain pillars of SaaS products to serve as systems of record. And the one rule we have now is it has to be API first, it's agent first. That's our primary objective right now.
And of course, building layer in this environment. We are a small startup. We have resources, but we want to spend most of them into building and developing our product.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah, and I'm responsible of a lot of our non-engineering related divisions, from art to marketing to sales to customer support, SEO, and you name it. And in order for me to function, adopting agentic workflows or AI is the only way. Otherwise, there's no way to scale myself to that extent that I can be successful in all these 5 different fields that required so many people. And one of the things we recently did, and I'm really excited about, is yes, we were looking at our go-to-market tech stack to see how we can distribute our B2B tool to many studios who need it, make our brand more visible. And instead of going for 5 different solutions and really big bills, we automated a bunch of the tech stack, and we still rely on some of these tools, but we were able to reduce the amount of tooling that we need to let's say from 6 to 2 tools plus Claude. And this way we're able to catch the studios who are successful, just trending, and they need to keep pushing more content to their games, either for UA or live ops, and we're able to meet them right when they need and where they need with the right messaging. So this has been fantastic. It's basically instead of us doing it manually, now we're able to scale ourselves and have them come to us and discover Layer.
So we're here at the Game Developers Conference here in San Francisco this week. So I don't know how many, 25,000 plus game developers here. You're having a lot of conversations with people who are not necessarily here in San Francisco rubbing up against AI people every day, right? So what are you hearing from game developers on both sides of what we talked about? Because we spent a bunch of time on using Layer, for example, to build it into your live ops processes, user acquisition, et cetera. You've also talked about agentic engineering and how that's changed your own startup experience. What are you hearing from other game developers? And then what should they know that they cannot leave this week without understanding?
I feel like every conversation I've had, everyone knew about agentic workflows. So even though I guess maybe SF is a little bit of a bubble and everyone talks about it, every day and night, even folks coming from all over the world keep very close eye on the news, the tech. I think the game industry in general is very tech forward. Historically, that's been true. From 3D kind of GPU graphics to mobile, gaming has been at the forefront of new tech adoption. I think it's no different with agentic stuff and AI in general. So I think the conversations we're having aren't really not did you hear about AI and agents? Isn't this cool? It's more about trying to figure out the exact harness that they need, and they're kind of having exploratory calls about how can I implement this so that it actually works. And the one thing I want people to kind of take away from this, and more of a self-promotion, is we work with a lot of studios, and we've seen a lot of examples of things that work and that don't. And I think there's a lot of value in working with someone that has this level of experience to kind of shortcut the pitfalls along the way, and really just kind of get to production and get to kind of scale as fast as possible. Don't try to figure it out all on your own, but also it's good to keep agentic workflows as a core strategic goal in mind, and that's what we're perfecting for ourselves.
And yeah, that doesn't mean your brand will depreciate or your quality bar will drop. I think being able to include some of this new tech, make it front and center in your company while maintaining the quality and consistency is possible. And I would say that especially in this era, increasing dependencies on third parties is definitely coming next or last. And I think every studio today is trying to build these creative systems that scale, and doing it in the most efficient and non-dependent way possible have been the most, I think, the key takeaway that I've been hearing.
Well, there you go. We're going to have to wrap up our time there, though, because we're here at GDC. You've got a lot of folks to talk to, as do we. But definitely check out Layer AI. I think if you're trying, as you've just put it, scale your creative workflows and be able to really expand, and I think it just democratizes it for so many companies. Like, you as a small mobile startup actually would have the ability to create a massive number of creatives, be able to plan user acquisition in a way that probably takes tens of millions of dollars in the past just to test enough creatives. So it's still a very hard business to be in by all means, but you have a fighting chance there. And then the ability to really keep live ops going with events and content and acculturation, all of that, I think it just really, really widens what you're capable of doing in the surface area of your game. So check out Layer AI. And definitely, if you don't have folks in your studio who are sitting down with Codex or Claude Code or one of the agentic workflows around coding, what are you waiting for? Like, just sit down, do it, tell it the craziest idea that you have and see what it does. You might be surprised, actually. Like, it's able to kind of ideate pretty effectively on cool things as well.
Let's go.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, B. Thanks, Vulcan. It was great having you here.
Thank you so much,
pleasure.
John.
And the rest of you have a great GDC, and thanks
Bye.
for tuning in. Your time is so valuable.